I've always liked the Project Moon grim dark world building. Despite the absurdity and the blatant disregard for human life, I think the world is quite fun to play in. Not to exist in though, because how do you even live in the Project Moon universe? I've seen a lot, and I mean a lot of people telling me that the city is way worse than Arknights, but it honestly has way more in common than people realize. For one, they both have stupidly strong women that believe they are the second coming. Oh, but that's not all. In both universes, unless you are born into an upper middle to higher class family in the safer block of the world, you are susceptible to what I'll happily dub as random BS. That's right, big sad. Before we get into anything, I'm basically new to the PM franchise. I've only ever beaten Lobotomy Corporation and Limbus Company, and have been slightly spoiled on Library of Runa. So this video is just me stumbling into these absurdities and sharing it with you guys. So yeah, spoiler warning. Carmen was a brilliant scientist with a noble goal. Despite being born in the upclass, she didn't fit the mold of cynicism or cruelty. Instead, she saw a major problem with the city and decided to try and remedy it. While the idea of helping others were laughed at, eventually Carmen found a group of like-minded individuals to help her out, forming the first research team and the basis for Lobotomy Corporation. This was what I found incredibly fascinating about the first game. Carmen wanted to research this silver goop thing that runs on desires and wishes. It's still not fully understood, but we can see that people transform or manifest weapons and tools when near it. Carmen believes that this power can balance even the weakest in the city, so if everyone has it, then perhaps then we could finally achieve a more peaceful world. We'll put a pin in that. So the gang got to working. Carmen was looked up to be this charismatic, strong-willed leader. However, there was one person Carmen could tell the truth to, and that was the protagonist of the first game, A. She trusts A to complete the project if something were to happen to her. She admits that she isn't exactly that strong. If something were to go wrong or someone were to get hurt, she would never be able to live with that guilt. But that guilt was the creeping factor in the upcoming week. Their research yielded less and less of a promising result. So they turned to human trials. Carmen knows that there's an unknown risk to this, so they did a bioscan, finding out that she would be the most compatible. However, not wanting to risk the leader of the entire project, someone else volunteered. A child. There were many meetings between the members, but the pressure was all on Carmen's decision, and the decision she made was... The child was just an orphan, expendable in this world, but not to Carmen, the woman who wanted to end this dystopia. Those words from the sister broke her and research became unbearable. Until... Carmen? Carmen, are you okay in there? Carmen! I'm coming in, okay? Carmen was still alive. Barely. A found her just in time while she was delirious and decided to... It was the only way to save her, to save the project. So he created the bucket, placing what remains of her inside, allowing them to process the silver substance into something dubbed Kagado. The reason why I told you the story of Carmen was because I wanted to show you that she isn't a bad person, at least from the perspective of her fellow co-workers. But what does Carmen have to do with making the city impossible to live in? Well, because I'm about to tell you some insane Lobotomy Corporation speedrun lore. After the refinement of Silver Group to Kagado, our protagonist decided to play the system. See, what they were researching is against the government laws, causing a devastating attack by a couple of claws and an arbiter. We'll get to that later. So after having the strongest human in the world at the time save him and old dude, the pressure had doubled. To continue the project meant more funding, time, and now legalization. Only a wing can fulfill that.
Hey, what if we just made them fight each other?
Wait. We can't just start a... Boom. Mega corporation war called the Smokes War begins. To put this into perspective, this was not a Domino's versus Papa John's. This was a national level war that caused the collapse of L Corp and G Corp. After establishing themselves, more human experiment to make eco-friendly energy for money and their secret Seed of Light project, which, by the way, powered the entire $8 billion billion people city. But he can't manage all of this megacorp alone. So he broke another major law and made an AI clone of Carmen. But because the AI clone wasn't exactly like Carmen, he straight up abandoned her, but not before giving her 100 times slow dilation to manage all of the corporations. Old dude tried to support the AI woman to ensure that their company doesn't run to the ground, but A dug out every one of his friends, including the 2 orphans, in an arbiter's brain to make a bunch of immortal robots. And to wrap it all up, trap everyone in a 10,000 year time loop to complete the project. Mind you, he also trapped a bunch of random, regular, decular employees as well. Imagine you're going to work at Walmart, but your abnormalities are the customers. But you're also living in ReZero. Yeah, apparently there's some time thing with how it's only been 10 years outside but not inside. I don't know. Just know that the project succeeded and the sea sprouted into a warm, glowing light for the city. In the true ending, we can see that Carmen's dream did become true. But then, boom, AI Carmen decided to shut the thing off after I suffered through all of Lobotomy Corporation, causing what is now known as the White Night and Dark Days event. Carmen and A merged with the light, but to this day, that was the most disrespectful scene that personally afflicted me with some BS. To be fair, I guess she did suffer 1 million years while also managing every single other branch of Lobotomy Corporation. After the light was spread throughout the city, all hell broke loose. Remember how I said that this was a grim dark? Yeah, the city sucks. We do not love it here. Reports were going rampant on people suddenly becoming monsters. I'm about to show you guys one such incident because this will set the precedent for what's happening. A 38-year-old pianist wearing a worn suit. This man was traveling around in District 9 looking for a job. He exists in a city of music and was experiencing some BS. While he was performing at a bar, some random guy slapped him across the face and started playing the same song. But random guy was playing it much better than he could, so he broke down, shoved the guy off the piano and started bashing his own head against it. But without realizing it, he was starting to play music again. An understanding bloom. Everyone is joining in on his song and dance. And in just one night, over 300,000 people died. Yes, you heard that correctly. It took one poor crash out to kill 80% of his district. And this wasn't even the strongest / most dangerous breakdowns. This is the distortion phenomenon, an extreme mental breakdown. Their will and beliefs are being shaken, so a gentle voice will visit them, the voice of Carmen. She was still following her own beliefs and I guess you could say saving people by telling them to give in and be honest with themselves, becoming a self-destructive, stronger and more ideal version to shape the world into their own image. Okay, I lied. I'm gonna show you one more example because distortion is weird. A grand opening of a chicken restaurant swept across K-Corp. Its success thanks to the owner's secret recipe. However, this conniving piece of crap stole and threw his recipe into a concept incinerator, which I don't even know how he got his hand on, erasing the recipe from existence. The man broke down. That recipe wasn't just a secret formula, it was a core memory linking to his poor mother, the woman who scrounged up everything she could just so he could enjoy a meal. He distorted, turning himself into the Chicken Man. The chickens attacked, hijacking many customers and even guards. But the craziest part is, after endlessly recreating the recipe and fighting to undistort this man, the vision of his mother appears. His mother preferred pizza. At least this one wasn't genocide. But this is such a cool concept. Like, I don't know if this distortion thing has been done before, but the idea of a debate against yourself or a voice of whether you give in or not is like a test of faith. Especially since A, outside force cannot stop this once it begins, and B, she doesn't force you to distort. No, she does it with consent. That's right, if she can respect a no, then you can too. This is how you manifest your own ego. A massively powerful weapon or tool to aid in fulfilling your desire. It's pretty hard to do since you're at your most vulnerable moment, but if you do find the will to remain unshaken, then you too can become invincible. Relatively speaking, because we gotta talk about the city. The city in itself is the reason why I find it so hard to believe how anyone could live in the Project Moon universe, other than the sheer indomitable. Here, let's spin this alphabetical chart I found to see where you isekai to. You just woke up in H Corp, a giant Rubik's Cube that is ever-changing and shifting. They have a period called Restructuring Day that measures one's wealth and rearrange room and space accordingly. Translating, the city itself measures if you're a brokey and then cuts your room or dumps you into the street, or slam you into another block. Oh, but that's not all. Let's say you somehow survive the Restructuring Day and all the BS. Now, it's cleaning time. Remember the story you've heard from your mom about staying out late at night? In the city, regardless of which district you're in, every night contains waves and waves of sweepers that will comb through the entire place, leaving nothing behind. This is a government-approved calling. The sheer amount of these sweepers makes it impossible to beat them. Their one caveat is that they only work in the back streets and for about an hour, meaning you can survive them if you are strong enough. Despite this, H-Corp might be changing for the better, especially after the event of Kanto 8. But this allowed me to talk about singularities, which are special, highly advanced technology belonging to each separate district in the city. For H-Corp, the bolus medicine. They're basically Chinese medicine that helps with all sorts of things, but frequent use of them will lead to a mutation, which H-Corp took advantage of by making super-powered soldiers called the Heishos. These singularities are supposed to help people, however the Project Moon universe is set in a late-stage capitalistic dystopia. So, let's take a trip to W Corp. Wow, so modern, look at the sleek design. You might think it's one of the nicer places to live, right? This is not even talking about the other stuff in W Corp. W Corp advertised themselves to be a teleportation service, allowing you to go from district to district with a warp train. What they actually do is scan your exact molecular structure like a video game save point, send you through a dimension where time moves like a million times slower, trapping you in an immortal, inescapable field as you go crazy, then after like 10,000 years, you arrive at your destination. W Corp cleanup crew then comes in to basically kill you and put you back in your seat and rebuild you. You won't remember what happened, but you were in hell for a very, very long time. That's just one of the many terrifying things and, in my opinion, probably the top 5 worst place to go in the Project Moon universe. Oh, but again, that's not all. Because if the Megacorp doesn't get you and the City Sweeper doesn't get you, then you have a chance to run into the Syndicates. I swear we run into more syndicates than rats in the sewers. In just the span of 3 in-game months, we ran into the Twin Hook Pirates, the Blade Lineage, the Kurakumo Clan, and one of the major 5 syndicates, the Middle, who's still chasing us, by the way. This list doesn't even count the smaller scale one that serve as fuel for our bus. Each of these syndicates have their own rules and culture, which usually ends in your suffering or death if you don't follow them. However, what controls the city and its law is the head. We barely know anything about the head because, for some reason, learning about them leads to your execution. Yes, if you've been isekai'd, you're already dead. We do not mess with the head, because during the event of Kanto 8, when the current Lord of H Corp, the Kong family, was having a baby shower, but then this old hag set them up to break a law while forcing her grandchild to watch it all. This is like when your cousins show you a live feed because they thought it would be funny. But after they broke a law, the head set in the claws and an arbiter who are basically people with singularities as their weapon, and wiped out every single person there, including the women and children. And peek what the arbiter said after committing genocide. Literally, next frame.
The only thing that could excite me were the dying and the crumbling. Only the sound of their last breath and the expression they made while they cling to their fading life could satisfy me.
This is our high-ranking government worker, the one who monitored the city. Yeah, because we will revisit her sadistic face later. But moving back to Lobotomy Corporation. I briefly mentioned abnormalities earlier in the video, but despite the negativity I've been spewing out, these guys are barely a factor in the current game due to the final ending of Lobotomy Corporation. However, they are still out there because abnormalities cannot be killed or destroyed. We still haven't even encountered the most unstable ones yet, and these bastards can range from like a dog that misses owner to a German guy. Oh, but what's scarier than one German guy? Two German guys. If you remember from earlier, abnormality spawns from humans mixed with Kagero. However, sometimes they can come from nature, such as the Black Forest Trio. But allow me a moment for a tangent. Why do people even work here? The pay has to be like 6 figures because imagine your first day on the job and you're ordered to work on the nameless Whose baby is this? Each abnormality has a letter as a way to classify what they relate to, with F being a fairy tale and legends, T for trauma or any intense emotions, and finally O for naturally occurring. Naturally occurring. To make it worse, this abnormality might answer my question. A diary entry from Polly expressed how excited they were to be working in a wing. But every so often, a giant roulette wheel appears and selects a very lucky employee. That agent will be promoted and transferred to a new branch of the company headquarters. But in addition, their family will be given unimaginable fortune. Polly Sr. won the pool and was never seen again. Now look at this final log. Once someone is sacrificed to the fetus, the company deletes all data on that agent and doesn't even pay the family. Side note, never ever select this thing. The nameless fetus cried as an AoE mental damage while also causing everyone near it to break out. Anyways, back to the Black Forest Trio. First up, Punishing Bird. He's a pretty chill guy. Sometimes it breaks out and pecks you, which is honestly not that bad. I can survive being pecked by a bird. The small bird believes there's too much sin in the world. It must be the one to exact punishment. So the little bird left the forest it had been living in and never went back. Judgment Bird. This one straight up hangs you. Lore-wise, the long bird goes around to weigh your sin on a scale. However, the scale will always tip the same direction. At one point, its eyes could see all, shining brightly like the stars, but it gave its eyes to the big bird in order to protect the forest. Lastly, we have the Big Bird. This one's a menace because look at the second sentence of its lore. The creature will stare intensely and then bite the head off of anyone, no matter how young or old. Big Bird believes that there's a beast in the forest that dazzle creatures away. So to make sure it can save as many of its residents as possible, it burned all of its feather to make an eternal lamp. Its effort was successful, however, it was still concerned for the creatures still being killed by the beast. An idea struck the bird's mind. If I kill the creature first, then no one would be killed by the beast. We could find this large bird in the forest. Right after that, we tried to look for the beast that dazzled people. We searched through every nook and cranny of the forest, investigated every single creature in detail. A month later, we came to this conclusion. There was no such beast in the forest, except for that big bird. Lobotomy Corp might be stupidly difficult, but you can already see the fire writing since the beginning. However, after the 21st day in Lobotomy Corporation, if all 3 were to breach at the same time, this happens. Apocalyptic Bird is an incredibly powerful being that has a raid boss-like mechanic, forcing you to maneuver teams to destroy the 3 eggs around the facility because this thing is immune to all damage. However, if you do manage to defeat it, you will be rewarded with the second best set in the game as well as the Apocalyptic Bird never forming again. Oh, but you're already used to me saying this. That's not all. Remember the pianist earlier that killed like 300,000 people? There's an abnormality called the Silent Orchestra, and it will break out. The thing stops you from manipulating time and begins to play 5 movements. The first 3 just does damage to you. The 4th straight up erases your progress. Yes, this Abno just robs you. But if you didn't stop it before the final movement, it becomes immune to all damage and kills everyone who's mentally distraught. But there is an even worse one you literally cannot prepare for on your first blind run. The White Knight. When you first play Lobotomy Corporation, you get a chance to meet the Plague Doctor, a seemingly friendly and easygoing abnormality that heals all damage of an employee while also blessing them. Keep in mind, this was like 7 years ago. Not only was I a young impressionable child, I had no idea what this ominous circle means. but this buff is looking scrumptious. Let me just give it to everyone in the facility. Why is he performing the Michael Jackson? Oh, he must be evolving. That's so cool. Okay, one more. Have I not chosen you, the 12? Yet one of you is a devil. Huh? Everyone is dead! What? Wow, this is such a cool gimmick, forcing you to reset. Oh, he's still here, and he's breaking out again. The apostles are insanely tanky and does like a bajillion damage. The White Knight does an AoE true damage blast throughout the facility that also revives the apostle. Oh, but that's not all. It stops you from controlling time and prevent you from opening the pause menu. At the time, I was nowhere near strong enough to beat this thing, forcing me to literally reset the game. However, this thing is now permanent on your account. There's only 2 methods to subdue it, and one of them is to confess to one sin, allowing the true saint to beam the devil back to his cell. By the way, confessing gives you nothing and still kills your 12 employees. But if you do beat it normally, which I recommend to subdue the other allies first before attempting, you will unlock the greatest set in the game. The last one I want to talk about is probably the most famous among the olives. Nothing there. This one likes to take your skin and is stupidly loud. But it has one of the cooler gimmicks in the game. When an employee fails an interaction, it will take their skin and wear it, repeatedly saying, "I love you, I love you, I love you." However, if a second employee fails, covering your screen with flesh and organs, you only have one shot to take down the monster. 10 seconds to play Where's Waldo in this massive facility. If you fail, the monster breach and begins its assault. This time you have about 30 seconds to direct every single resource into killing it before it reaches its second phase, cocooning itself for another 30 seconds before turning into its final form.
Hello?
Goodbye. This abnormality specifically grants the iconic sword that you might know and love, the Mimicry, often being depicted with the red mist. It would be such a cool fight to see in Limbus Company, and I do hope it has a great gimmick other than having like 10 Limbillion health, because right now I think Limbus Company is pretty easy. But the red mist? This is probably the second most in-depth thing in this universe. Firstly, the ranking system, starting from no-name grade 9s all the way to number 1, then the color. But people misinterpret fixers the most by believing that they're a bunch of muscles for hire. Fixers do everything, like bodyguard, accountant, detective, heck, even consultants. Grade 9 to 7s are no name that needs office or syndicates to stand out. Grade 6 to 5 are like the... I'm kidding. I have no idea what any of this means, other than lower number equals better at job. It's like an adventuring guild, you do quests, rank up. Wow, shout out to Don Quixote. But let's look at some well-known people. The Red Gaze. This man is the one that guides us throughout Limbus Company, and so far, his reputation precedes him. Being one of the few people I've seen that manifested an ego and also soloing a frenzy second kindred. Oh yeah, there's vampires by the way. And this one had the collective hunger of her entire race. I'm not gonna power scale in this video, just know that bro instant pop ulti and hit her 4 times to end the fight. He also has a prequel book, which I did not read because there are no translation, but before the Red Gaze, we had the Red Mist. This was back during Lobotomy Corporation Day, when she Damn! I'm kidding. Callie was actually a good person. She grew up in the back street and protected the residents there, becoming the strongest fixer at the time and earning a color title. And she did all of this with no enhancement, no magical Mang Chinese power, and no ego manifestation. She was recruited by Carmen to protect everyone in Lobotomy Corp. But one day, due to a betrayal, the head found where Lobotomy Corporation is and sent in 2 of the claws along with the Arbiter. But remember what we learned about this woman? This Arbiter decided to kill everyone in Lobotomy Corporation by unlocking every single bad anomaly just so she can watch as all hell breaks loose. But Callie had 2 choices. She could leave right now because this matter doesn't concern her. Every abnormality is gone from his cell and the head is personally after an old dude. Callie, fueled by the will to protect the remaining people, decided to grab the Mimicry and went to subdue every single abnormality while also killing all of the claws. The final opponent standing is the Arbiter of the Head. This was literally Toji versus Gojo, but Toji is the one who's tired. Callie put up a long, hard fight, but was exhausted, losing an eye, one arm, and probably had her organs and skin open up because of the fairy singularity. The Arbiter decided to give Callie an honorable death since she is the famous Red Mist, but Callie was literally too angry to die and snuck her with a Mimicry, ending the reign of terror. To summarize, Callie subdued every single abnormality, killed 2 super soldiers with access to OP singularity weapons, and an Arbiter for the Head that was probably in the top 2, maybe even the strongest person in the verse. You already know what happened after that. A could not let these 2 specimens go to waste and made them robots. However, I don't know what happened after Lobotomy Corporation because they both show up in Library of Runa. So hopefully you can get a glimpse at how terrifying this world is. There's one stark difference between the 2 game stories though, because I feel like the first one was more of a hopeless story, showing us that no good deed ever go unpunished. See, a lot of people, even in the non-canon story, died because they want to help people and be an overall good person. Like, if Callie never turned around to save A, an old dude, she probably would have been in Limbus Company by now and probably still the strongest in the verse because she's definitely distorting. But the message shifts to a more hopeful side in Limbus Company when we get to see that yes, this world is so incredibly bleak, yet despite all of that, we can still make a difference. That even when there are threats unimaginable, we can band together and fight against it. Because life's hard, but it's way more fun and bearable with friends and loved ones. Okay, time big.